Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome to the podcast. This is episode 2, The Scandal of the Century. Now, for most of you guys listening to this podcast who know a lot about baseball, or even just a thing or two about baseball, you most likely know about this scandal, how the Astros had cheated their way into winning a World Series. Now, this was an episode that I could not hesitate on making. I mean, I myself had a lot to say about the whole situation, from the rumors that started to how it ended up, and a lot of things about it. And it wasn't just me. In fact, a lot of the people in the baseball community and even people that I interviewed for episode 1 were also very surprised by this. And so this week's episode will be dedicated to the scandal. I'll be going over many things, such as what the scandal is about, how did it go through, and how fans all across the board reacted to this as a whole, and what they think will happen. So to start off, what did the Astros do? If you're someone who wants to learn a little bit more about what they did, what their crime was, the Astros were caught using an electronic system to steal signs. Now, what is sign stealing, and what are these signs that they stole? Well, as we all know, in baseball, there's a pitcher, a batter, and a catcher behind the batter. Now, we all know what the pitcher and batter does, but what does a catcher do other than catch balls thrown by the pitcher? The catcher position has a lot of roles, including, catching the pitches, obviously thrown to them, that's one, but also, throwing runners out, that etc. But one role that they have is to relay the signs to the pitcher. What does that mean? Well, a pitcher in baseball doesn't just throw the same pitch every time. There's different types of pitches, such as fastballs, sliders, curveballs, knuckleballs, etc. And there's also locations as to where they're going to pitch them. Are they going to be thrown up? Are they going to be thrown down? Are they going to be thrown in? Are they going to be thrown out? Are they going to be thrown straight in the middle, etc.? There's a lot of ways how this can go, and that is the purpose of a catcher. A catcher has a unique outlook on a batter, and from then on they can relay signs to a pitcher and tell them, okay, so throw, let's say, a curveball down, or throw a fastball outside. And these signs are typically shown by holding a certain amount of fingers underneath a catcher's glove. Now, sign stealing is basically when a team finds a way to figure out what the signs the catcher are holding up, and use that and tell the batter, okay, so he's going to be throwing this ball on there. Now, by Major League Baseball rules, sign stealing is technically legal. But what makes the Astros villains if this action was illegal? Or should I say not illegal? See, sign stealing is normal when, for example, a runner is at first base and they're able to look at the catcher and decipher what type of pitch they're throwing based off of, decoding the whole system from the catcher's fingers to the type of pitch, and then they're able to relay it to the batter. That's very hard, but that's the legal way to steal signs. However, there are illegal ways to steal signs, for example, using some sort of technology. Like, for example, in 1951, the New York Giants used it against the Brooklyn Dodgers using a telescope, and were able to relay signs like that. Recently, it happened with the Boston Red Sox, where they use Apple Watches to steal signs. Using some sort of technology to give yourself an unfair advantage and steal signs is illegal. And if I need to state this, if I didn't already, sign stealing puts the batter at a huge advantage. I mean, when you're behind a plate, you don't know what pitch the pitcher is going to throw. You don't know where it's going to be. And to just know where it is, know where it's going to land, how fast it's going to be, or how it's going to be thrown, it gives you a huge advantage. And that's exactly what the Astros did. Or had, should I say. Now, the way how the whole situation folded out was when a few baseball reporters from a journalism website dedicated to, sports news and whatnot, And reporters from that website had written an article basically exposing the Astros. This also came from an interview by a former Astros pitcher now on the Oakland Athletics named Mike Fiers. That guy's also in a bit of hot water right now. To go on, Mike Fiers basically exposed the Astros, the Athletic exposed the Astros, and so on. Now, at first, these were just technically rumors surfacing that the Astros had used a center field camera and stole signs, but then YouTubers and baseball fans jumped on the case, specifically one very famous baseball YouTuber, John Boy Media, who is known to make comedic baseball videos breaking down whatever happened. He made a video using a clip from an Astros game against the Chicago White Sox, and in that video he exposed that their system where they would hit bat with it on a trash can, this would create a banging noise based off of a certain pitch. Now, in a bit, I'm going to be playing a clip of such allegation, and it basically was found from an interview with White Sox pitcher Danny Farquhar, who in an interview stated that he heard a loud banging noise after he threw a changeup, which is a type of baseball pitch, and this is how it sounded. That metallic-like thud that sounded like something wooden hitting something metal, that is exactly what the system was. Luckily, what baseball does is that they don't just delete all footage from old games, they archive each game on YouTube. It's very accessible, and this is what made this whole situation, this whole scandal, able to be revealed by baseball fans and internet sleuths like John Boy Media. They're able to use this footage in order to find evidence, and that's exactly what happens. Again, the evidence that I used was based off of an interview by Danny Farquhar, who was the pitcher during this sound clip. But multiple forms of evidence were found all across 2017. It was just a really ugly situation as a whole. Now, as for me, what would my opinion be about this whole thing? Well, I had a lot of emotions going through the whole thing. I mean, for one, even though I was an Angels fan, I'm a Giants and Angels fan, and I'm technically supposed to hate the Astros because they're in our division, I always had a soft spot for them because of the 2017 World Series. If anyone knows me, they know I'm not a huge Dodger fan, and I was definitely rooting for them, pulling for them really hard during this World Series, and it was just great to see them win. However, seeing how it is now, I just think it's honestly, I feel bad for the Dodgers. They should have won that World Series. I mean, if you look at Game 5, it was a really high-scoring game, and the Astros, who at first seemed to pull through and be the better team, turns out they just had an advantage and they cheated their way into winning. And it really sucked. But the whole situation is really shocking because we hear about scandals in sports all the time. You know, we heard about, for example, the Patriots. They cheated in some instances or were allegated, by deflating footballs, spying on other teams, stuff like that. You know, there's always allegations, but this specific situation was something else. This was a team effort that ended up in basically changing baseball history. I mean, for all we know, we could have seen the Dodgers-Yankees World Series in 2017, but we got completely different results due to the fact that the Astros had used or had given themselves an unfair advantage and ended up winning baseball games that they should not have won. But of course, a lot of people had a lot of opinions about this, and so I interviewed a lot of baseball fans about the situation. I interviewed Dodger fans because I knew for a fact that watching your team lose a World Series by cheating really sucked. So here was an interview that I did with Sarah Carillo, a senior at DVC who's a huge Dodgers fan, and this is what she had to say about the whole situation.
So my family is a huge Dodger family. We love the Dodgers. We've been loving the Dodgers since I was little, and so hearing the news was just made my mom very upset too, because she went to the World Series game, and she felt that she like wasted like all that money buying a ticket to watch a game that the other team had cheated. And so she just wished that she went to a World Series game where they actually played fair and they like it was like a fair like chance of like either team winning.
I interviewed Jordan Howell, a freshman from DVC who is a Dodgers fan. This is what he had to say about the scandal.
I was really mad because, you know, being a Dodgers fan, I don't really watch much baseball, but when it has to do with the Dodgers or the Dodgers in the playoffs or anything like that, I'll watch it. So all those series that they had cheated in, I had watched it, you know, and I had experienced it, and to hear that, it was just like, it tore my heart out of my chest, bro. I couldn't believe it. And then they started bringing up all this other evidence, and I was just like running around the house like, I couldn't believe that it was actually a real thing. You know, it's the biggest scandal of our generation for sure.
I also interviewed Adan Davis, another freshman from DVC who also happened to be a Dodgers fan, and he had a lot to say as well.
When they cheated, I was appalled. I was appalled. I don't know how to feel knowing that a potential banner was stripped from us. I completely lost respect for the city of Houston, the organization of the Houston Astros. I've lost all complete respect for everyone who lives in Houston. Texas in general, I've lost complete respect. They are cheaters. I don't know what to say. I am appalled. I am appalled from their actions. That they would even consider cheating in the MLB.
But while I do feel bad for the Dodger fans, there was a certain fan base that I felt bad for the most. And I know it's a really unpopular opinion. Many baseball fans would disagree with me. But I felt really bad for the Astros fans too. And of course, me being an Angels fan, we don't really like the Astros or Astros fans, but I really felt bad for them. I mean, to witness your team win a World Series is amazing. And then to figure out that the only World Series your team ever won in franchise history and happened through cheating. So I also interviewed an Astros fan, Eric, who is a teacher at DVC, and this is what he had to say about the situation.
When I first saw like a story that showed up on my feed, I didn't even click on it because I thought it was just some like bitter fans like making something up, or that it was something that like was just bogus, and I didn't. And so when I found out what was actually happening, it made me. It felt like everything was over. All the celebrating was just over forever with that championship.
As a result of the whole situation, the Astros faced punishments, and in fact, other teams also had different effects as well. The Astros fired their general manager and their managers, Jeff Lunho and AJ Hinch, and there were also some managers of other teams that were also involved as well. Alex Cora of the Boston Red Sox was involved in the scandal, and in fact the Boston Red Sox were also accused of sign stealing in 2018, and they mutually part ways, and Carlos Beltran, who was just hired by the Mets this offseason, also lost his job. They part ways as well, and yeah, this was just a whole ugly situation for baseball as a whole. And yep, that's the episode. Thank you guys for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.